everybody. This is evan.zuri with Northern Transmissions, and today I'm talking to the one and only Dave Bazan from Pedro the Lion.
Hello.
How's it going, Dave?
It's going good.
You guys just played a really, really beautiful set. I had a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
You've been writing songs for a long time now, whether that's been with Pedro or your own name or with Headphones. I was wondering if there's something about songwriting that took you a long time to maybe figure out.
I think I'm still figuring things. I mean, I was thinking in the van today about something, and I felt like something unlocked in my head about songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I've written songs for sure, but it's, I don't know, it's an elusive, kind of ever elusive process, and I'd like to think I'm still honing my skills or whatever. And, yeah, it's endlessly fascinating.
Yeah,
hearing songs and how they work, and yeah,
it's interesting just even seeing, like, I mean, you guys pointed out at one point tonight, it's in a couple of years, it'll be 30 years since the first Pedro record.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a friend. It's interesting to just hear how, because you guys still play the songs off that first record, and it's interesting to hear just how much they've changed, even from the album versions of the tracks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we like to play some of the old songs, certainly, and but we they just find a way in the way that our hands and instruments are now, and I feel like we owe that to ourselves and the audience to like find a new kind of voice through which to sing.
For sure. I was also curious because I think it was 2019, you brought back Pedro the Lion after a bunch of years you had been doing solo records. From an outsider's perspective, it looks like Pedro has meant a lot of things, different things throughout your life. What does the name mean to you now?
Well, for the first 3 records that I made under the name Pedro the Lion, it was the name of a process by which I made records. That kind of changed by Achilles' heel, like, a little bit, but and it's a process that I kind of stopped doing or stopped pursuing kind of deliberately after Pedro, and then I came back to that process to work under the band name again, but also it just felt like I knew I was making this series of records that are autobiographical and about different towns that I lived in, and as I was doing it, I thought, starting to do the first one, I thought, man, I really wish I had a band name for this, because I was still using my name, Bazan, and then I realized, I do have a band name for this, and I had already, like, when envisioning the new project, I thought I could go like, everything in the kitchen sink in terms of production, and then I thought, no, what I really love is figuring out 3-piece arrangements for songs, and so I had already decided that that's what it was going to be, and coincidentally that is what Pedro is.
Yeah, and that's interesting to hear you say that, because I've seen live footage of Pedro from pre you deciding not to use the name anymore, and it was very much like the 4 guitar, 2 guitar, bass, drums setup.
We did have that, certainly for the Control touring.
Yeah, but now hearing that makes sense. You've had so many different configurations of Pedro, and you hop around on instruments a lot. We were talking about. I saw you guys a couple of years ago. You were on drums, and some performances you're on bass, some you're on guitar. Do you think maybe kind of keeping it that 3-piece configuration maybe kind of helps to keep the sound fresh, so to speak, or?
I think it's just, I mean, economically, so there was only a period of, I think it was in 2002 when Control came out and we were supporting Control when we were a 4-piece, like 2002, 2003. And it was kind of like, you know, the band was playing bigger places. I could afford to bring like another person out. And, but only one of the arrangements on Control is tough to do as a trio, and we figured out how to do that on Magazine. And so by 2004, when we were touring, 2004 and 5, when we were touring Achilles Heel, we were back to a trio. And so it, and you know, originally the band was a 5-piece on the first EP, but partly a trio is just a really economic way, both like financially, like economic, but also just, I like the economy of like having to write for that. Like it's challenging in a way that I really enjoy, and then just to get an arrangement that hits right and to get it up on stage with just 3 people, always is just really exciting. Everybody is like a solo instrument almost in a trio, because there's nobody just like holding it down. Like everybody has got to be both holding it down and kind of animating things, you know, too. And that's just, I don't know, I like that. I think it's easier for me to navigate and manage somehow. I you know, and there's I could go on and on about this, but there's a lot of examples of like, you know, a lot of classic rock is 3-piece arrangements with a guitar solo in the middle part, you know. But it's just how my imagination with songwriting has tended to work. Maybe it won't always. And I've been in acts that, you know, Low Tom and Overseas that are, you know, 4-piece rock and roll.
Yeah. Would you say maybe like having that limitation with the trio maybe forces you to like be more creative with the arrangements of the songs?
It certainly does, and it can be hamstringing sometimes too. Where I just think if I just had one more voice, you know, and that's kind of what was going on with Santa Cruz, where I used synthesizer bass instead of, it's kind of a little workaround because I got a bass voice and another synth voice that we didn't go too hog with, but like at some key times it added like another layer, and that was fun. And now it's the challenge of figuring out, like, if I'm not doing synthesizers or a synthesizer for bass on upcoming records, like how do we, you know, how do we attempt to represent the complexity that we're after?
For sure. I had a question about the synth on the song Modesto.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the latter half of that song is talking about the band Grandaddy.
Oh yeah.
How you describe it.
Yeah.
And then there's this arpeggiated synth, like in the outro of the track. I'm really curious because there's a Grandaddy song called Crystal Lake.
Never left the Crystal Lake. The party's full of folks who flake.
Oh yeah.
Which is like,
no, it's just ripping off.
Reference.
It's like
Okay.
I mean, like I'd heard an arpeggiator before Grandaddy, but like the way that Lytle uses the arpeggiator in that band is like so classic, and so it's a dead reference. To that,
cool.
For sure.
Yeah. And kind of bounce off that, I mean, you, like we were talking about, you've written a ton of like autobiographical records in the past couple of years, Santa Cruz being the most recent one. When you're writing from a more autobiographical standpoint, how is there a way that you kind of decide like which memories like are worth writing about or turning into songs? Or
I think there are certain ones that I hope make it. Like I hope I can find a way, like the 5th grade in the lunchroom and Quietest Friend, like that little memory is kind of one of the original ones that I wanted to try to. It's funny because I didn't quite know how it could work to reference these, and so I guess I would say it was the first memory that I wanted to sing, but that isn't even how I think about it. It just so happens that's what I'm doing, is singing.
Gotcha.
I didn't get to but it also has to naturally show up,
Right.
if that makes sense. And so I hadn't forced it into any of the songs because that's not how the process works for me. And so the last song on that record that I wrote lyrics for was Quietest Friend. It was the last night of the last day of recording, and it was, after 10 o'clock, like I was really hosed, and I had this song to write. Like I was hosed because I was up against this deadline. I was like really super stressed out about it. Right. And I was so glad that memory just really fit. By the time I got to the second verse, it was like, oh, I'll just try to sing that memory. Yeah. And so I, just tried to like scratch it out into rhyme quickly. And so it's kind of, it's really just a feeling of like regret if I can't figure it out, or something that feels really crucial, because it's the criteria is my own subconscious. It's like my own higher self or whatever who kind of summoned me to do this project in the first place. And so in the end, it's just like, what will help me to heal my relationship with that part of myself the most? What's the most kind of resonant, what memories do I feel the most shame about, like when I'm lying in bed at night? I don't know if that is everybody's experience, but like all of a sudden you just remember how like you said that horrible thing to that kid in 5th grade, and and it's just like swirling. And so for me, it's just trying to kind of like just work and live through all those things in a way that has been, seems like it's been helpful.
Yeah. That's good. And kind of bouncing off of that, has, like looking back on the past, like through your music, changed how you view, yourself back then, or, cause reflection for anyway?
Now that I'm at the phase of writing the time period that is covered by the records that have been coming out since the late 90s, I do have those records to, like, a lot of this process is just going back and being a friend or parent to the self that was that age, where I go back and try to offer what it was I needed then, didn't have, and sort of try to bring that stuck version of myself like along with me, or whatever. And so having the records to understand where my head was at, and to reconnect me with where my 22, 25, 27-year-old self was, is helpful. And my job at this point is to go alongside that guy and try to offer some guidance that he did not have at that point.
That's good. I was also wondering, are there any songs that you wrote, years ago that you maybe look at totally differently now?
Oh yeah. Well, my perspective on some pretty key things has changed, and so I can kind of see the motivation for certain songs more clearly, and I can see songs that, though my beliefs are different, they still really resonate. Like Secret of the Easy Yoke is a song off It's Hard to Find a Friend, and though I don't really believe the chorus of that song says,
Someone please tell me the story of sinners ransomed from the fall.
and it's this song about really longing for kind of like a connection with, I guess specifically the divine, but just something real and, you know, bigger. And so I don't believe what I believed then about the divine.
Yeah.
But that song still really resonates with me, and I can sing the exact lyrics, and it doesn't feel like a contradiction to me. But there are other songs that I wrote that I just don't want to sing from back then, and it's because of, well, I don't know. Whatever I was doing in that song was very dependent on that belief system, and it didn't sort of transcend the kind of math of it. And so there are some that do, that I love to play, and then there are others that, you know, I get what I was doing, but it just wasn't quite right.
Yeah, for sure, that makes sense. A couple more questions.
Yeah.
So this is technically the last stop on your guys' most recent like living room,
Yeah.
you know, tour or whatever. And you've been doing these kinds of tours for a long time now. Like
since 2009, we started in January 2009.
I was wondering what kind of the launching point was for deciding to like kind of, because you guys still do tours like you play in regular venues.
Yeah.
But you also do, in addition to that, a lot of these smaller, you know, more intimate shows where it's you and Eric Walters, who's the other guy in Pedro. I was wondering what kind of when you started doing that back then.
Sorry, I have the keys.
I was just wondering what like kind of the thought process was, and like were there any artists that like kind of did something similar that like you took influence from?
There was a bunch of things that kind of converged to make that happen. The way that touring went at that time, it was good, but it was kind of feast or famine, and so I spent a lot of time at the pawn shop to make ends meet. Like I had a bunch of gear, so I could have part of my gear at the pawn shop, have like, I think that system it was pretty great for me. It's not, there are predatory lending things galore, but for me that one was pretty reasonable, and it helped me to bridge the gap between tours, etc. And so that was something that I was hoping to get out of. I didn't, it was effective, and I'm grateful for that system, but I didn't want that to be the only way that I could make my ends meet.
For sure.
And then at the same time, Kershaw Branches was finished being recorded. This would have been about Thanksgiving of 2008. The record was done, but it wasn't going to come out till the fall of 2009. And the label, Barsuk Records, wanted me to lay low until the record came out, which meant no touring, because going on tour, it uses resources. It's like a venue play in that town. When you're just going to come back and try to play it again, you tend to use like press resources. Like if the local weekly writes about your show, they might not write about when you come through supporting the record. So they kind of wanted to pinch the hose so that when it was time to unpinch the hose, it like
For sure.
shot out really quick, or whatever the metaphor is. But big splash, and we wanted to honor their wisdom and the spirit of their wishes, but we needed to violate the letter, because I had to play shows. That was how I made my living.
Right.
And so we decided to come up with this house show idea. At first, I thought, remember in the back of Maximum Rock and Roll, like they had like, you could send away for like a punk rock, like basically a zine with a list of house shows, phone numbers and stuff. And Bob was like, I've heard of that, you know, and we were looking online, and obviously that was like I thought, I wonder if there's something like that now with the internet.
Yeah.
And so we started looking, and we asked. There were some house show venues that already existed that we knew about, and so we called them up, and we were just trying to see, is this a viable way to route tours?
Right.
And the first one or two that we talked to were like, first of all, we do them on Saturdays only, like once every few months.
Yeah.
And we don't really like Dave's music, so we would not want to book him at our house.
That's a bit of a dilemma.
I mean, it was just like, well, okay, that is important data.
Yeah.
So how do we find places to play? And so then we came up with crowdsourcing hosts, and a bunch of logistical kind of boundaries and rules and just like ways of protocols, I guess is the better word, that made it to where it'd be safe for hosts and it would be functional for people and not a chicanery of any kind, you know, just like it worked and it was like low key. And so we figured that out. And you know, we played house shows a ton when I was a kid, and I had shows in my own house, like a bunch, and so it was always like a really, you know, and it's an ancient, like truly an ancient, like thing to do.
Yeah.
Like people playing entertainment for other people in someone's like living space. Like this has been going on for millennia.
For sure.
And so we just kind of figured out how to work like the logistics so that it was viable for us, for me, for mostly, now it's Eric too, but to go around and be able to work this way. And it's been great. I have not gone back to the pawn shop again in that way.
Good.
Yeah. Still buy stuff, but I don't know to get loans.
That's interesting to hear you make the like maximum rock and roll comparison, because just pretty recently I interviewed Mike Watt, who's the bass player from the Minutemen, and he was talking about how like in the 80s, like when the Minutemen were going, like that's how they would book shows. They would find people from the punk fanzines. They would reach out like by phone, say, hey,
absolutely,
you know, find the person who ran the fanzine, contact their house or whatever. So that's really interesting to hear you say, like, you know, kind of that similar.
We heard about it from. I mean, that's in your psyche from the time you're a kid. You know, you see that in the back of there, and and then I think maybe in their movie or whatever they might talk about that. But that's cool. I mean, certainly there have been punk rockers trying to figure stuff out like that for a long time.
For sure. Last question I have, Dave. What's next? What's coming up?
Working on the next couple. In the series, there will be 5 total, and that's what's next. We'll go home. This is the end of a 2-week run in the Mountain States, and we'll drive home tomorrow to Seattle and just continue to work on the next records. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, that's all I had, Dave. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Dave Bazan, Pedro the Lion. We're out.
Bye.